Hello, Leighanne. Welcome. How are you today?
Hi, Alicia. I'm great. How are you?
Great, thank you. I'm so excited to have today's guest on. Today, Leighanne is going to be sharing with us a little bit of her incredible journey over the last few years. Would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners, please?
Sure. I'm Leighanne. I'm located in Geelong. I'm a wellness coach and I love helping women with self-care. It's something that I've learned over the years how to be a self-care queen, and I absolutely rock at it, and I've got good reason to. So, yeah, I love it. Yeah, love
That's
coaching.
That's fantastic. That's a fabulous title. Self-care queen. Oh yeah. I love
There's
that.
no guilt.
And so if your background is in massage, but also
That's right.
before that, what kind of work were you doing before massage?
Okay, yes, I've been in the corporate world for a long time and doing administration and all kinds of different things, and also very creative. So I made hats for a while as well, but I really didn't feel like I was sort of hitting my stride until I got into remedial massage, and that's where I really connected with clients one on one and started to learn about the wellness issues that are going on with people, and also myself. So yeah, but absolutely loved it. So, and only recently moved into the coaching space after 5 years of doing remedial massage. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. So, Leighanne, tell us a bit about, do you want to share maybe a bit of your story of what has happened in your business and personal life over the last few years, as
Yes.
much or as little as you choose? I'll give you license to just kind of go where you want to go with this.
Sure. Well, around 2016, I was finishing my VFA qualification in remedial massage, and I was setting myself up in a space in Ryrie Street to run my business for massage. And this is a space that I'd purchased in 2013. It's a beautiful studio. It had these big windows and just gorgeous wallpaper, lovely. I did the whole thing, the floorboards, and had it all decked out and ready to go. And I started to grow my business from there. And it was just like when I went there, I just felt so peaceful, and it was just my thing. I felt really comfortable in that space. And then in late 2017, there started to be a bit of a worry that there might be some structural issues with this building. And we started to do some investigation. And in 2018, the middle of 2018, the whole thing within a day had to be shut down. Everyone had to get out of the building, basically. All these businesses, there were 27 lots, and we had a day and a half to move all our stuff out, relocate our business, and continue on as normal as such in many respects. There was accountants and all kinds of people in there. And so it was a mad panic, not only the fact that I didn't know where I was going to run my business from. I didn't know what was going to happen to the actual building, if we were ever going to be able to return. It was really uncertain. And so I managed to find a space in Pakenham Street. It was three times the rent I was paying. So I knew I had to increase my numbers and do anything I could to keep working, because keeping working in massage was going to keep me sane throughout all this. And then I had to actually work with the committee to get ourselves out of this building situation. And we tried for 6 months to basically sort it out, which is dealing with all these owners and skyrocketing costs that went from few hundred thousand to over $5 million. And it was just absolute chaos, trying to keep grounded in all of that. And I clearly wasn't. I had heart palpitations. I was constantly getting my heart checked. My anxiety was crazy. I was having panic attacks regularly. I had good people I was working with in the committee who were trying to do things, because we were quite competent people, but we could see that this wasn't going to be something that we could resolve, and we had to go in administration. And the administration has been going for 4 years, thereabouts. So we've been, I think it works out to about that. So we're still in administration now. And the costs are still going up. And what's happened since is the building's been pulled down. And then what's ensued is basically fighting with people in groups. So we'd go to these meetings and it would be arguments about legalities, about this issue, that issue. And then we just wanted to sell this thing and move on. And it's just been ridiculous. It hasn't resolved, and we are still trying to sell it. Yeah. So
wow,
that's a short story.
Just to kind of give a bit of like even more sort of scope to this is something that you had invested. You weren't just renting your space, were you?
That's right.
This was actually like and this is great businesses do this. We make money, we take our profit and we invest it into assets, which then lasts us in the long term. And property is usually, as they say, safe as houses.
That's right.
It's usually a commercial building is usually a very long-term, profitable, very safe asset to take your pool of cash and invest into.
Yes.
Unless, of course, the business is structurally unsound. There's 27 lots, and how many owners are there?
So 19 owners, and one owner owns a lot of lots. So that's partly the issue. But there's also rules about whose responsibility it was to pay for things. And these arguments circled for years because there aren't many precedents set in this area, in Victoria. And so you have to have 100% of everyone on board to sell. And if there's one person who doesn't want to do it, you can't force them to do it. So, and it makes a lot of sense in many ways. And in a good building that works well, that works. But in our situation, it just didn't make sense. And it's just, it went from being my fight to being, I was watching an experiment. I feel like I've been watching an experiment in diplomacy, in conflict resolution. I've been watching mediation of all these things that I'm seeing with this whole process. And I in a way that makes me understand it, and I can move forward in a way, because I can sort of, if I look at it with that hat, I'm less involved in it. I'm more disassociated, which I've learned. And I say this, I'm cautious when I talk about this stuff, because I don't want to make light of people's trauma. But when I was very young, I got kicked by a horse in my face, and for a large amount of time, I was not awake. I was not present in my body, and a few things happened to me in that space where I was taken to hospital and all this, and I don't remember a lot of it. And throughout my life, there's been situations where I don't even feel like I'm actually in my body. I'm watching myself doing things, and now that I know more about this, I'm actually quite okay with it in that space, because it helps me cope with it in a way. Yeah. So I've kind of been looking at it from a distance, even though I was in it. Yeah. So
I think that ability to disassociate, it often can have those negative connotations, which it sounds like in the past was possibly there.
Yes.
And also understanding how powerful that can be when there's not a lot you can do about trying to get 19 people to agree, when many of them are probably in fight, flight, or freeze, because it's also their retirement, investment, assets, etc., that have been affected.
Yes.
And often, they say animals are more prone to biting, mainly when they're scared. And I think humans can be similar, that people are more likely to show that fight, flight, or freeze, which is often not a resourceful way to bring everybody together. And especially if the administrator isn't great at bringing everybody together, potentially.
Absolutely, yes.
That it's like that. It's basically, well, what can I do in this situation? Because there's not a lot you can do, but there is a lot that you can be. And that's really what I want to find out a bit more about today. So thank you for sharing your story. It's so incredibly courageous. And to be fair, mindful of the fact that this is still an ongoing process. So mindful of what is said, et cetera, in this conversation, because there are still legal processes about. But what I am really curious about is, how have you found creative ways for yourself out of the chaos?
Yes. This was a conscious choice where I said to myself, I deserve to feel good no matter what. And that was, I believe it was largely unconscious at the time. I had no idea. And now I look back and I see it. But I was like, right, well, if this is happening over here, I'm going to do so much over here that's going to make me feel good. So I was booking massages, I was going to chiro, using essential oils, doing my cards, meditation, like on steroids. Meditation was just absolutely, I'm so thankful for that. And being able to still say that I was worthy and that I was enough, even if the shame of this stuff was going to be there. And because really a lot of it was shaming, and about money, about all of our decisions, how if we were to make a decision, this would impact this person. You could see the direct result on if you spoke your mind, that person was going to suffer. And so it created that dynamic of shaming each other. And I really wasn't comfortable with that. And obviously reading about Brene Brown's work as well helped me understand a lot of this stuff. And then I started to have some peace with it and let it be in a way, because I felt like that even if everything was totally chaotic, I'm still worthy because I'm alive. And what I mean is worthy of having a business that is successful, having a family life that's peaceful, having time for myself in the bathtub, reading a book that I love or a podcast, listening to things, but even going and having an awesome day at Endota, if I could afford to, I didn't guilt myself out about it, because I knew there's money stuff here. There's massive money issues over here that we're not dealing with yet. And it's like that thing in your mind saying, how can you go and spend that money when you could be needing this over here? And I just got really comfortable with doing that, because it was going to keep me sane through it. And then I believed that because I did this, that other things were possible. And that became less of a thing. And these other exciting things over here were what were really my life. And this was not my life, but it was sort of over there,
Again, that beautiful disassociation over there.
It's like, and it would come up sometimes in ways like, I always joke about this at home sometimes, usually when I'm in my pajamas is when it gets me. So you might be when you're when you've got no guard up at all. That's when a comment might be made, or you might see an article that talks about it or something, and it kind of gets me inside. And so I've worked really hard not hard, but just worked on creating sort of a gentleness with myself that I know I'm going to be triggered by it, and not letting myself go off in the rabbit warren and getting all caught up about it. Because I've had a tendency to do that early on, but then once I started doing your program and doing the coaching and stuff like that, and learning about how to be in the world and focusing on what I really wanted was just the game changer. Yeah.
I think it's so our nature to feel that pressure and that squeeze and that kind of, it's like, I want to say creating smallness when we're under the pressure cooker. And I know I've experienced that when there was stuff happening in my business and there was like, doing 30 massages a week wasn't even covering the cost, and we were still going backwards, and I was exhausted and, all the things.
Yes.
That there is it's like it compresses us and it can make us quite small and narrow.
Yes.
What I think is incredibly beautiful is the way that you found out, some of the creative ways you found out of the chaos was to actually be very expansive. Go and open your heart up by booking massages, open your heart up by going to the day spa, working on meditation, sitting in all of it and going, you know what, it's heavy or it's tough, and just acknowledging what was actually coming up for you at the time.
Yes.
I think that is something that often, whatever we resist persists. And I know for me, my tendency is to go, I'll just hold it together. And when it's all done, when it's dealt with, then I'll be happy and I'll deal with it, I'll unpack it, etc.
Yes.
But actually what I'm hearing for you is that you actually created strategies that allowed you to unpack as you went.
Yes.
And that's incredibly powerful.
I don't know how I came up with this, but when I saw what was happening to the other people in the group, I don't know. I guess, I didn't want it to happen to me, I guess, in a way, but also that I wanted to show there was a way, even to them, even though they were hurting me so much. But I don't know, like it's still, and it's very puzzling. It still puzzles me when I think about them all. Yeah, and then, but like you say, the having those times on your own to think about what's coming up for you. A lot of time there was a lot of angry voices and things coming into that space, and then eventually, after a while, there's what comes is self-acceptance. Like, it's just so easy. It's like it gives you space from it all, and then you can sort of remember who you are in all of it. Like the calm in the storm. That's really what it feels like. It does feel like that.
Yeah. Learning to be present and still when the chaos is actually all around us, as opposed to waiting until the other side of the storm and then doing the cleanup.
Because I don't know when the storm's going to end.
That's right. She's like, I'm not holding together for 10 years. No way. I just...
So like it's the biggest storm.
So I guess I kind of heard some of them around self-care. With what was some agreements that you made with yourself when I want to say when you're in the struggle, but when you are in the struggle, not so much when you were in the struggle, because obviously this is still ongoing. So what are some agreements you make with yourself?
Yes, the gratitude is everything. Gratitude takes it's like an antidote to everything, and because you have to put in perspective, no one's died in this, and thank goodness no one has died. Like we had an earthquake not so long ago. What if that building was still standing? So I'm so thankful that it happened when it did, because it's probably been the most absolute blessing that it happened the way that it did, so that it could have been so much of a more terrible thing. And then what do I look at every single day? Like, I've got a computer. I can sit here and do my business from home. I can see my family. I can go and get a coffee up the street. And there's just little bits of joy in everything. And, if an email is going to come through today that's going to have some bad news on it, well, I'll pick my time when I'm going to do that. And it's usually not going to be when I'm working with clients or doing fun things. It's going to be when, when I'm in the mind to deal with that. And if I'm going to have to deal with it, it's only going to be for an hour, and I'm not going to let it go beyond that, because after that, I've got things that I'm doing. And I just always have things set up that I look forward to. So tomorrow I'm getting my hair done. It's a regular thing. I always read book. And I've got all that stuff there, so that no matter if the week is a good or bad week, there's something there for me. Yeah. And just being able to just give myself that space, but also be thankful for everything, because we are so lucky. And this learning is I see it as a gift, even though I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But when you look at it with hindsight, you can see it in that way, even though it's still happening. I have hindsight. Yeah.
Which is so powerful. And I think to be able to create something to look forward to and sit in gratitude when something is so massive. And that's certainly what, Viktor Frankl talks a lot about this, and almost every yogi, mindfulness coach, like anyone out there will tell you that gratitude is the quickest way back to center, because it's our natural state. We're naturally grateful. It's the patterns that kind of, like unconscious patterning that happens in our world that often takes that away from us. And so creating a practice of gratitude, it means that we tend to, when something bad happens, the first thing, instead of going, oh, FML, it's like, well, we tend to go, well, what am I grateful for?
Absolutely.
Which completely shifts our energy and our focus, because we're coming from, that warrior mindset rather than a victim. I'm a victim of my circumstances. It's so big and overwhelming, and I didn't mean to, and I didn't know, and all that stuff. But we lose our power in that.
Yes.
Whereas when we go, what am I grateful for? I'm actually taking back my power, and I'm empowered to then look and see what I can choose. And I think contrast learning between, well, these people over here, or, this is what I'm creating over here, and this is what these guys are doing over here. The contrast between the two, the outcome may not be any different. But the Leighanne who went into this in 2013 is vastly different to the Leighanne that we see in 2021, and as she emerges into 2022, so different because of what you've actually bumped into.
Yes, absolutely. I don't recognise past Leighanne. Even when I see posts on Facebook that come up in the memories, I'm like, who is that?
Yeah.
You see how you wrote about life.
Yeah.
That's what Facebook gives you, this mirror as well of your past life. And I don't recognize her. Yeah.
So it's so amazing. So what kind of things, what did you hold on to through the struggle? Was there anything that you kind of held on to as you went through?
Yes, I've held on to the Eckhart Tolle quote about this too shall pass. I've also learnt to see the world as a safe place, even though there's been when you can go through things like this, I think you can feel a lot of fear about, or just see the world as unsafe, basically. And that I don't want to create stereotypes about property, for example. Like I've had a bad experience, but I want to keep it in perspective. I don't think this is ever going to happen to me again. And if it did, I'm going to ask so many more questions, when I go into a dealing like that I won't make those same mistakes. And I also believe that you've got to make time. The time you have, it's going to pass anyway. So what am I going to do with the time that's going to make it constructive to me, and not wait for that perfect day when everything's aligned and the planets are all, that you just never know when that's going to happen. So choosing to just use the time well and do the studies and the coaching and learnings and all the things, because it all helps make more sense of it. And then I think, what can I make from this space now that's this new energy, that I've got this knowing, what can I create that can help others? And I see empathy in things now that I never noticed before. I really do. I can't explain it. It's just so much better to be with people who just, like, it's Brene Brown again, when she talks about when someone just is there in the room with you, that's just sharing it. They're not giving you any advice, but they're just saying, yeah, this sucks, or this is like, they're right there with you. That's just such a powerful thing, to be with people who are in that same situation, or for someone to acknowledge that. It just gives you peace, like, because you don't have to make up stories that it should be better. It just is how it is, I guess.
Yeah. And there's such a freedom in that.
Yes.
Like, it again doesn't mean that it's all that's gone away. It just actually, there's quite a freedom in that ability to just sit in it. I guess, and I think you've kind of already shared a little bit about this, but who else, or what have you learned about yourself in the process?
Yes, this is an interesting one. When you talked about victim stuff before, I was a victim. I lived in victim. I've realized I've had a scarcity mindset for a very long time, and it wasn't just this event that was called that. This event brought it to my attention.
Pretty wild way.
It's like, if you don't, when they say, if you don't listen to the universe, it's going to make you listen. It's that kind of it keeps bringing it back to you until you deal with it. And that's what this is. And I'm thankful for that. But that rocked me for a bit. And I also know that when I have Post-it notes all over my desk, that I'm in high anxiety and I'm taking way too much action that's unresourceful, I guess, because when I'm stressed, and especially this building used to bring this out in me, I would just say, we have to do something. And I'd be like, we've got to madly do this. We've got to ring this politician. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. Got to do that. And I just go into that zone. And I was throwing all my energy away. And so now, if my desk is covered in Post-its, like not neat Post-its, random messy notes everywhere, I know that I have to slow down and go back into my self-care and just remember, I don't have to solve it all. I'm not responsible for this. I'm part of this. It's, and just give myself some compassion instead of feeling like I have to be the little hamster in the wheel keeping it all going, because that's just that anxiety running the show, which I didn't know was happening. I've never known that about myself until this experience. So, yeah. and I've learned it the hard way, because people actually had to tell me, Leighanne, shut me down because it was too much, you know.
Yeah.
So I've had that and that was probably one of the hardest lessons to learn. Yeah.
Brene Brown talks about this in terms of anxiety, that we can have overfunctioners and underfunctioners. Yes. And they usually annoy the crap out of each other because the people that are underfunctioning are like, what the hell are you doing? What is wrong with you? Just calm down. And those that are overfunctioning are like, what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you stopping? Like, come on, there are things to do. We have a steam train and it is late and we are making this train run. Choo-choo. And like I would also find myself in the overfunctioning camp when anxiety is arising. And you're right, it's so powerful to have those signs to yourself to go, hang on. And one of my external checks is that I have a very good girlfriend who goes, say hi to your overfunctioning pants for me. Because #title of my next book will be Flying by the Seat of My Overfunctioning Pants. And it's like only a good friend can throw that back at you and you don't want to stab them in the eye. But it's important to have those checkers. It is. Because otherwise we can just get into a hamster wheel and just assume that we just assume this is a new level of normal now. This is how I roll. Right. I just overfunction all the time. But actually, this isn't actually healthy, safe, and it might be normal for me and it might be normal for the way I'm experiencing it, but it is it's good to have those checks around us, whether it's people or Post-it notes or whatever it is for us to go, what's going on here? I need to kind of make some adjustments and make some changes. Right. So, Leighanne, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently or what would you tell yourself in the past?
Yes. This is I'll tell myself not to be so hard on myself. Yeah. And I know that I don't know where the boundary is for letting go of control. I don't know where that is with some things. And having someone to check in with or to talk about, because if I realise it's out of my control, I wouldn't waste the energy on it. But sometimes I'm actually trying to control things that can't be controlled. And that's just, I just want to tell the younger Leighanne, because she was a lot younger. No, but I'll just tell her, it's beyond your control. Just let it go. Go do something else today. Yeah. And be okay with that, because I wasn't okay with that at the start. Yeah, and I am now. And I didn't know that you could be like that. It's strange, but I didn't know that, because I think it's Wonder Woman maybe. Grew up watching Wonder Woman. I always had this thing that I think if you're good at something, you can do anything, but really you can, but what you don't need to. Like, it's be good at what you do and do that, and just let the other go. But I don't know. Yeah.
So have more compassion for yourself. And then just realize the wasted energy that is in trying to control things we can't control.
That's right.
Yeah. Yes. I wish that if by sheer will we could change people. I do fundamentally believe the world might be a better place. I think that my sheer will keeps a plane up during turbulence, and I'm pretty sure that, I can probably help a few politicians and things like that. It's just kind of, unfortunately, however, however much we've tried, it's not how it works.
It's true, though. Well, this is what goes on in there sometimes. Well, Wonder Woman had an invisible plane, for goodness sake. I mean, you made it look so easy.
So easy, right? And as you were sharing, what I'm kind of hearing is that when you flipped that to go, well, I can't change those people, I'll flip that and go, well, what can I change for me?
Yes.
That's actually when the magic happened.
Yes.
That's right. When the shift became.
Yes, because I wasn't trying to change them. I just was like, well, because they were annoying me, so it was really annoying myself as well. Like, why am I not changing? So I was like, okay, well, and then it doesn't become an issue now, because you move on and you kind of go in your own direction. And then when you see the unchanges, they you just don't feel anything. because you've changed. Yeah.
So who do you think you've become as a result of all of this?
I just feel like I was going to swear then. If the world has gone to shit, if it has actually gone to shit, that I feel so comfortable in that space of owning that and just being brave to say that it's okay. I've got this, and we'll move on. It's not how I thought it was going to end up, but it doesn't matter. And just being, this is me, and owning it anyway, because it's not defining me forever, because I have moved on in so many ways. I don't want to hide the stories. I just want it to be a realness about it all, and that we can use these challenges to create amazing things and become, if you want to, you could, like, I want to become a leader in a space that helps people, feel more, I don't know, not joy, but just own their stuff and not feel shameful about it. Yeah. Because I know the world's changing. And I think the more honesty we share with people about what struggles we have, we can help each other. Because we can show that we can move forward and change, and it can be a blessing, really. Yeah.
And I think it's about modeling authenticity.
Which totally, yes.
Is not always done in society, and I'm sure that there's plenty of times that hasn't been modeled, particularly in the situation with what's happening.
Yeah.
And yet the most powerful and effective leaders that we see that have the greatest amount of influence, not necessarily the most powerful, but have the greatest amount of influence, have a sense of authenticity. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just so. I'm not God. I do not have all the answers, and I made a mistake.
Yes.
And I apologize, and I'm going to move forward from that.
That's right.
Like, you can't be mad at that. Like,
no, you can't be mad at that.
You can't get upset by that. And it's just like, let's learn.
I know. And this is, when I think about what has gone on, that structures around it, like the legal systems and the bureaucracy and the law and all that kind of stuff, and how rigid it is. And I think trying to find your way in this, like my way in this, because when you do massage and you're all nurturing and caring and everything like that, and then you go into a space where the people aren't like that, and you're like, well, I don't know this land, where am I? I've never been here before. And then you see what it can be like, and then learning to be okay in that you don't have to sell your soul and become someone you're not, but you just have a few strategies to deal with that situation, and that doesn't define you. And then you go in, you have, what is it? You have the flexibility to just be there and then adapt to this as well. And that's great. I love that feeling of just being able to go, oh, well, that's done. I'm still going. I'm still doing this, and it feels good. Like, Yeah.
So beautiful and so powerful. Like that ability to adapt in situation. The person with the greatest amount of behavioral flexibility has the greatest amount of influence. If you go into the massage room super like, right, this is what we're doing, and this is what it's going to, that would be so, disconnected to the way you operate in the treatment room. And yet if you also walked into the situation armored up, trying to be like them.
Yes.
Also, because it's not authentic. It's not who you are. You're not an armored person. You're actually kind and empathetic and goes with the flow. And like you said, you've had to learn strategies to go in to stand your sacred ground.
That's right.
Really, in a very authentic way. And I think even that, being able to do that and build the muscle of that, so that I can step into there and I'll hold my own, and I can step into there and I'll hold my own, in all capacities. It's so beautiful.
Yes. And we can do it. Like, I didn't know we could. So there you go. But that's what learning, listening to leaders like yourself and learning about this and having coaching and all that stuff is just, I don't know, it's just that to me is such a gift to understanding ourselves. And I also, it's pretty interesting that I'm one of the only ones that's done this, as well in that group and feels this way. So, but I try, when they ring me, I try to help them with this new way as well. So, so that their experiences aren't as traumatic either.
Yeah. So beautiful.
Mm.
What do you think is one of the greatest impacts you've had on this world because of what you've experienced over the last few years?
Yes, it's definitely around this idea of worthiness. And when I see, I guess it's my demographic. I mean, I largely deal with people in middle-aged women, especially in a time of life where lots of things can change. Potentially their kids are growing up and their marriages are falling apart, that kind of thing. And I love this idea of worthiness with women and how they, some of us have forgotten that along the way. I don't know what it was, what went on, but we've kind of live a lot for others in our lives, and just I love holding a space for people to actually feel that about themselves, feeling like they are enough, they are worthy, they're deserving, that they can go after things that they want in their life, that it's not over until it's not over. Like, the story's still going. It doesn't matter what age you are. And it all adds to an interesting life. Like, I just love that idea of everything is happening for a reason. And it's when you can look back on it now and see that it's easy, but when you're in it, you can't see that. And so trying to be someone in that space for people when they're going through that, that's what I want. That's what I want to be doing more of, and sharing that, just being there, because I don't know, I think it's really unique experience. Yeah. And it just takes the edge off, like, of all of it, I think, to be able to have some compassion for yourself and to know that you're worthy, even if all this is falling apart, even if this is going on. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's it's such an incredible story, especially because of the joy that you are experiencing authentically, and the fact that you're still in the storm. Like, it's not like this is, oh, cool. And so there was this, and then, here's the resolution. It's like, you're actually still in the fight. You're still in the struggle, and you're choosing to not, that's not your identity. Your identity is actually what you have created because of the challenge. And I just think you've been able to share that so beautifully. And I just really appreciate your heart and your ability to articulate all of what has transpired over the last few years. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you so much for everything. Yeah, it's so lovely to be able to talk to you on this, and thanks for the opportunity.